this is part of our blueprint together for what America can be. This is Bidenomics, a plan to invest in America and build a future in which all people can truly thrive.
It's a blueprint together. She then collapsed and had to be rushed off stage by paramedics. It was a tragic situation. We're hoping for the best. Godspeed, Kamala Harris. Godspeed. Well, happy Tuesday, and welcome back. We are at 888-630-9625. You know, yesterday, one of the many things that we didn't get to because it was Monday and they gave us too much stuff was the U.S. women's soccer team. They're playing kick the ball, kick. And we had a couple of listeners call in, and they were on the big board, but we were entangled in other topics. On the U.S. women's soccer team, I was talking about how they beat Vietnam, as Ted Kennedy would pronounce it, the other day in New Zealand, and I watched a little bit. What I did is I hit it on the DVR, right, and then my best girl and we went out, and I came home on Sunday afternoon, and then I was able to zip speedily through the DVR of the women's soccer team, and every time I saw the score change, I stopped and went back a minute and then, watch it. So I was able to watch the whole game in about 8 minutes or so, and it was more fun that way. I was unaware of the U.S. women's soccer team players doing their anti-national anthem protest while representing the United States of America in international women's soccer. And they had that Megan Rapinoe person there with purple hair or blue hair or whatever she's got now. And she has demonstrated in the past that she's not really on Team America, world police, but she's on the team, but I guess not playing. I mentioned that I didn't see her on the, she was running around hugging people, but I didn't see her kicking the ball. Kick. But she, she's a protester from way back, and I never liked her. She's annoying. She's obnoxious. She's arrogant. She's ignorant. She's a Democrat, a liberal, self-described liberal, really a leftist. But in any event, a whole bunch of the split was 11-man team, 11-woman team. Then the split was 5-6 of women on the team that put their hands on their hearts, and a couple of them looked like they were really into it, and they were singing along, or at least mouthing the lyrics, going along, and looked a little emotional, representing their country and in New Zealand in the Women's World Cup, kicking the ball. And I thought, well, that looks nice. But I finally looked at it at that moment with the anthem, and I said, wow, they just keep doing it. The left just keeps on doing the left, the Democrat Party, the left, anti-American up the yin-yang. And here we are, the women's soccer international competition, New Zealand World Cup, and they're protesting the anthem again because the Democrat Party. Let's face it, you're looking for the one-word answer. The one-word answer is Democrats. That's the thing about them. So I saw that, and I was scratching my head and thinking, do they deserve a boycott? What about the women on the team who acted like normal people? Remember Normal? We have Remember Normal gear and wear and items at the Chris Plant store. Coffee mugs and T-shirts and hats. Remember Normal. But the Democrat Party represents the opposite of normal. And they are really fundamentally anti-American. Just say it out loud. It's what they are. They prove it at every turn, every possible turn. They're also anti-biology, waging biological warfare against our culture with their notion of biological men and biological women, meaning men and women, and trying to transgenderize all the children. I talked about a great one yesterday that I think is a lot of fun. What if the school systems across the country were baptizing your children at school, liberals, lefties, godless, dog is your co-pilot crowd, Biden voters. What if in school they were baptizing your children rather than changing their genders? How about that? I think I think that'd be a lot of fun. And then you find out that the school board has a policy where you don't inform the parents, but you've got atheists, Democrat parents who send their kids to public schools, secular schools, and they learn that their kids have been baptized and they're being converted to Catholicism, right? And now they're Christians, and you find, instead of finding a copy of Gender Queer under their mattress with graphic depictions of man on boy and boy on man sex, which the Democrats prefer, the party of Jeffrey Epstein and the list goes on. Harvey Weinstein, Bill Clinton, Anthony Weiner, on and on. But in any case, you find, instead of finding Gender Queer under the mattress, which the Democrats are sending your little boys home with, you find a copy of the Bible. What is this? Democrats would protest. This is outrageous. They'd burn it or something, in the backyard on the barbecue. And you say, well, gosh, I've converted to Catholicism, Mommy. And the Democrats would go absolutely bat guano crazy, as you might expect. And you got Muslim kids, Hindu kids, Jewish kids, and at school, they're converting them to Catholicism, baptizing them, and keeping it a secret from the parents. I think that's a lot of fun. So, the women's soccer team, and I was scratching my head. I was thinking, well, about half the team is protesting the anthem. It does take a lot of the excitement out of rooting for them, or a lot of the motivation. You're going to root for this team that is a bunch of lunatic left anti-American protesters who are doing a poor job of representing their country, the United States of America. I think maybe they should be deported. They should play for the Cuban team, something like that. Then when they come here to play, they can defect. But this is about, Michael, what is the explanation for this? Democrats. It's Democrats. Democrats is the correct answer. These young women have been raised by, the Democrat-dominated culture and educational system, where they're raised on and weaned on anti-Americanism and anti-patriotism, and they're raised to believe that America is a terrible country, our founding is corrupt, and slavery and the 1619 Project, which is just a fatuous lie by a fraud who's not a historian at all, but another left-wing radical who gets every award under the sun for lying about the United States, as long as you smear and slander the United States. And then these young women show up at international soccer competitions, and they're sneering, and if you look at their faces, a number of them are sneering. They're anti-patriotic, not just unpatriotic, but anti-patriotic, anti-American. And it is, the explanation is, honestly, the one-word answer is Democrats. Right? Republicans didn't raise these spoiled brats. The young women that are standing there with their hands on their hearts, who are, have tears in their eyes because, look where they are. What an amazing opportunity. What an amazing experience in life. And, they're fine. So I feel bad about them being on the team. But honestly, can we deport these little B words, because they don't deserve to represent the country, and they should be at bare minimum kicked off of the team for their stupid, ignorant little protests. Just saying, So we got that going for us. Yeah, and I was, because I wasn't really up to speed on that yesterday, and I saw that there were listeners who had called in who were up to speed on that, and fun stuff. Yeah, so we got that. Also, Biden administration, you've heard of them. The Joe Biden administration, it keeps getting deeper and deeper for them on the Hunter Biden front. And the Republicans in Congress are chugging along very slowly, kind of business as usual. We'll have another closed-door hearing on Monday with Devin Archer. That was supposed to be an open session and on camera, but now it won't be, because, the Republicans just don't know how to play hardball, and they're not bare-knuckles brawler. brawlers, which is why so many of us love President Donald Trump, because he's a bare knuckles brawler. And he, the Democrats will just steamroll you every time, in the New York Times and the frauds at CNN and beyond will steamroll you because they're just front groups for the Democrat Party, meaning the left, the Davos left, the Gulfstream Guevaras and limousine liberals of the Democrat Party. But the fight is on, and President Trump fights the fight. I've got to say, the Republicans in Congress have not, and there's some progress being made, and I'll take, and Kevin McCarthy, not the most articulate speaker in the history of the U.S. Congress, and Congressman Comer is getting stuff done, and Senator Grassley from Iowa last week did some good things, releasing that 1023 form. We've all got to talk in terms of 1023s now, and it turns out that all the lies. Oh, none of this has been corroborated. Oh, really? Like the Steele dossier, which was Hillary Clinton's big lie opposition research, but never mind that. And I've got updates for you on that today, because there are updates on that. It turns out that the Pittsburgh office of the FBI had corroborated a number of elements in that 1023 form that the FBI has had rolled up and shoved into their dark and remote location for the last 7 years. Oh, we haven't been able to corroborate everything. Another lie, caught in another lie, another fatuous lie by the FBI, the Fascist Bureau of Intimidation, which we also have at the Chris Plant Store, because we came up with that. It was a listener that came up with at least parts of that. The Fascist Bureau of Intimidation. We have our FBI wear at the Chris Plant Store as well. But we have updates on that, because we're just lied to so often. It's crazy. Now, it turns out the Biden administration has given a Soros-backed, George Soros-backed, that's anti-Semitism. You said the name Soros. Now, they want to destroy the state of Israel, the Democrat Party members of Congress, from the river to the sea, the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, push the Jews into the sea. The Democrats all over, the heroes of the Democrat Party in Congress want to do that. They're not anti-Semites, right? But if you mention George Soros, they yell at you that you're an anti-Semite. Biden administration gives Soros-backed group millions to teach young Puerto Ricans about toxic masculinity. Right? In fact, they even call it toxic masculinities, plural. There are multiple toxic masculinities, according to the Soros-backed radical left billionaire, ill-gotten gains, Democrat Party frontman, not on the side of Western civilization or the Enlightenment. And the Democrat Party is leading the charge in the United States to drag us down. And they're having a lot of effect. They're very busy. So we got that. Hunter Biden, he's one of the world's great artists. He's Picasso, right? Because he sells his paintings, according to all the dealers, then it became a secret, for more than certain Pablo Picasso paintings have sold for.
I'm Picasso!
So Hunter Biden sold $1.3 million in art, which is paint he blew through a straw. Everything with him is through straws. Have you noticed that? It's kind of a recurring theme in the life of Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden sold $1.3 million in art, and one buyer was a major Democrat Party donor, a friend of the Biden family, who was then appointed to a prestigious commission after buying Hunter Biden's useless, pointless art for way too much money. That's no problem. When you're a Democrat, that's just not a problem. The Democratic donor who won plum Biden appointment purchased Hunter Biden's paintings. Just a coincidence. The New York Times doesn't think there's anything to see there. Just amazing stuff. And here's one from the Gateway Pundit today I want to share with you. Joe Biden will step down from office after a sudden medical emergency before weak and feckless Republicans muster up the nerve to impeach him. That's a strong headline. I like that. And you remember Joe Biden told us that he'd fake an illness when the day came. So interesting story from the Gateway Pundit. And Rudy Giuliani, former U.S. attorney in New York, broke the back of the mafia there. He weighs in on what kind of a case the Justice Department has against the Bidens That's coming up. CBS News just wants to put it all behind us. Shouldn't we just move on? CBS News says. Pretty amazing stuff. The Devin Archer testimony suddenly changes. The Biden's new dog is a vicious attack dog that does nothing but attack the Secret Service, too. Another Democrat fakes a racist crime and is exposed, and then the media stops reporting it. That's coming up. Crime and homicides in D.C. and subway turnstile jumpers. I've got an update there. A maskless churchgoer, an update there. Oh boy, I've got a lot of news for you today. We're at 888-630-9625.
Hey, I'm Picasso. There's only one.
Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com.
All right, Michael, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Helen calling from Charleston, South Carolina. Helen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, I have a few quick comments on the lack of participation of the team in the sports team.
The soccer
First of all,
team,
I
women's
noticed
soccer, and the anthem.
Yeah, the soccer team.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing that you did. The ones who did not participate, they look unhappy, they look miserable, and they look antisocial.
Right.
But they do. And the ones who did sing or participate positively, they look happy and they look socially well adjusted and excited and sincere, you know. So I think that the whole team should watch the old Robin Williams movie Moscow on the Hudson. and that shows that America's not perfect, but it's way, way, way better than communism. Any single day, hour, or second, at any time, it is better than communism. And the last comment, and then I'm going to give you a question, that my last comment is the parent and coaches are not instilling good values, obviously. The kids don't know that they need to say no to counterculture. And remember, our parents used to always say, if everyone else jumps off the cliff, will you jump too? But the parents here, they have a bunch of lemurs. They have lemur children, is what I see. My question is, who even knows what are they protesting anymore? And I really wonder, by looking at their faces, do they even know what they are protesting?
That is a great question, Helen, and I think we both know the answer. And that is no, they've just been raised by lefties to be anti-American, and so they are. And they're disgruntled and unhappy. So we've got that at least. All right, now I do want to get to this soccer team thing because the U.S. women's national team, as it's called, the USWNT, USWNT. You got to pronounce everything like it's an acronym, right? And some of the headlines from the last few days. Megan Rapinoe, who's a radical leftist, anti-American, disgruntled, commie, pinko, she... and also looks like no fun at all. And naturally she's representative of the LGBTQ spectrum. Is that a community? Is that a gated community that everybody lives in? So here is National Panhandler Radio with their version of events because they love anti-American voices. And we pay them to spread those voices with our tax dollars, and the Republicans in Congress are too dumb decade after decade to stop funding NPR. We don't need PBS anymore. There are like 400,000 TV stations. We don't need to fund the Democrat Party's propaganda network from coast to coast. But in every big city and small hamlet, NPR, PBS. How many? I think turn on the TV with the antenna in Washington, D.C., and I believe I have 4 PBS television stations. That's no kidding. 4 PBS television stations. And then the radio stations, I think we have at least 3 NPR radio stations in Washington, D.C. that are suckling on the taxpayer teat, and I'm a taxpayer. Now, here's National Panhandler Radio, NPR. Their headline from 3 days ago, soccer star, she's a soccer star, I don't know. Megan Rapinoe says patriotism means demanding better of ourselves. Well, Michael Piercy and I agreed this morning that we demand better of her. I'm going to hold her to a much higher standard, and until she is held to a much higher standard, until she lives up to that standard, I'm sorry I can't support her. I can't stand for her. I can't pledge allegiance to her. I cannot be a fan of hers because I demand better of her, just like she demands better of the entire nation. By the way, and our friend Helen from South Carolina just called in. I noticed this last night when I was watching some news on the television too. There is a habit among people on the conservative side of the divide to say, hey, well, the United States, we've got a long way to go. We're not perfect. I'm done with that. I'm not big on saying that in the first place. But here's the thing: we are perfect. Shut up. Nobody's ever been this perfect. No group of 330 million people in the history of the world has ever been as perfect as we are right now. And, a couple hundred years ago, bad things happened. You see, Joe Biden is declaring a monument to Emmett Till, a teenager that was murdered in 1955. All right? Day before yesterday, a 13-year-old was shot while riding his bicycle in Chicago. Build a memorial to him. How many people killed over the weekend? I think 6. In fact, the murder rate in Washington, D.C. is we're on track to have the highest homicide rate in 20 years. But Joe Biden's not talking about that. And Megan Rapinoe's not talking about that. So soccer star Megan Rapinoe says patriotism means demanding better of ourselves. I demand better of the U.S. women's national team, and specifically of Megan Rapinoe, even though she's not even playing because she's over the hill. But they make her out to be a hero. You know why? Because LGBTQ. And since that came up and they can never stop bringing it up like it's the most important thing ever, let me share this one with you. NBC fake news. 2023 Women's World Cup, they love their colons. A record 87 LGBTQ athletes will compete. That's the headline of the story. That's what the whole story is about, a record 87 out, because there might be more who just aren't out yet. A record 87 out LGBTQ. And wouldn't that just be L? I mean, isn't that what we're talking about here? Unless they're men. Are there men playing now? Are there, because you don't really need all the G is gay. Lesbians are gay, right? And B, bi, I don't know, maybe some. I can't say, but really, if you're B, aren't you also G? I think that, and then T. Well, look, L, G, and B are trying to distance themselves from T these days, and Q, I've got to say C, G. All right, because there you go. But a record 87 out LGBTQ athletes will compete in the 2023 Women's World Cup. This is a big headline at NBC News. Is that really any of my business? And am I terribly interested in this? Is this the most important thing? The number of out athletes competing has more than doubled since the 2019 Women's World Cup. That's 4 years ago, more than doubled. Democrats are making great headway here. Can you say headway in this context? A record number of out LGBTQ athletes will compete in this year's Women's World Cup, which starts later this month in Australia and New Zealand. The story is from July 11th at NBC Fake News. At least 87 out athletes. How many times are they going to say that? That's 4 times so far. Out athletes will compete this year, more than double the 38 out players who competed in the last Women's World Cup in 2019. They only play every 4 years. According to the LGBTQ sports website, Outsports. Outsports noted that the number of teams has grown by a third from 24 to 32, but that the jump in the number of out competitors, quote, reflects the growth of acceptance, end quote, or something like that. You know, that's pretty amazing stuff. The number of out players at the Women's World Cup also continues to rise, while there were no out LGBTQ players who competed in the Men's World Cup last November. So that's where you guys get to work on that, and maybe we can get a lot of that going on. The Fox News channel 2 days ago headline, majority of U.S. women's national team, USWNT, USWNT, majority of USWNT remains silent as national anthem plays prior to Women's World Cup opener against Vietnam. Vietnam, communist country. And, the Democrats, they are still rooting for Vietnam. They're pro-Vietnam and anti-America, just like Jane Fonda, just like Hanoi Jane Fonda. Is Hanoi Jane on the LGBTQ spectrum? She could be B, could be B. She's been married a number of times, I know, to a number of different men. But the majority of the women's national team remains silent. Not only they remain silent, I've watched the video a couple of times. Michael and I watched it again today of the opening ceremony where the U.S. national anthem was being played and the Vietnamese national anthem was played. And the Vietnamese women, they had their hands on their hearts and they were all singing, they're commies, that, they might kill their families if they don't. Something like that, because the Democrats really helped them out in the 70s. They sure did. They were pro-communist. And Hanoi Jane going there and posing on the anti-aircraft gun with the commie pith helmet on and stuff. So here's the audio of the anthem that the United States national anthem playing in New Zealand with the open of the World Cup every 4 years, where women go kick the ball. And the NBC News is very excited that, it's like a hotbed of sex in the hotel where they're staying because, young athletes, almost everybody is, I guess, LGBTQIA or something. So the United States women's national team's relationship with the national anthem has become complicated over the years. In the past, some members of the team have taken a knee as the song played during the kickoff of a match, right? But when the U.S. women's national team lined up on the field prior to the start of their opening 2023 FIFA, I think it's FIFA, the FIFA Women's World Cup match against Vietnam, the majority of the team stood during the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner, although most of the players seemed to remain silent. They remained silent. They didn't put their hands on their hearts. And as Helen said, they looked just generally miserable and unhappy. The women that did put their hands on their hearts, they looked emotional, like they were absorbing the moment. And here they are at the World Cup. They're in New Zealand. They're representing their country. But lefties, they just, they want to self-immolate. So it sounded like this during the opening ceremony. And the women folk, they're kind of, some of them are just looking aggravated and annoyed. A couple of them like, I'm supposed to put my hand on my heart, so they put their hands on their hearts. They're not being raised in a patriotic time in the United States of America, but several of them, I think 5 of them, had their hands on their hearts and seemed normal. At least one, a couple of them mouthing the lyrics. The camera is cutting away to the audience where there are a lot of Americans with American flags, and the Americans in the audience are singing the national anthem loudly. Big American flag hanging in the stadium. But a bunch of these punk brat kids, not all of them, mind you, and this is why I'm on the horns of a dilemma. Do I now say, you're dead to me, the whole team, because half the team is a gang of brainwashed leftists that are protesting. It's protesting the national anthem. That's what they're doing. So 5 players placed their hands over their hearts as the song blared throughout the stadium. but there were 11 players on the U.S. team, and 6 of the American female soccer players stood on the field. Eden Park in New Zealand stood with their hands at their sides or clasped behind their backs as the anthem played, and just looked disagreeable and disgruntled. And I got to say, then you got that, didn't Rapinoe take a knee last time around? Is that what she did 4 years ago? Because they only have these every 4 years. So 4 years ago, she was young and in the zone. Now she's over the hill and she's on the bench, professional athletics and all that stuff. But Megan Rapinoe is easy to dislike. She wants people to dislike her because then she's a victim. Right? Some members have taken a knee, as the song played in the past, and I gotta say, you people, U.S. soccer star, I don't think of her that way, Megan Rapinoe became one of the first prominent female athletes to take a knee during the national anthem in solidarity with former NFL player Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, his silent protest against police brutality. An unarmed black man is more likely. What is the number? First of all, the police kill more white people every year. They kill more unarmed white people every year than they kill unarmed black people. There are more people in the United States killed in lightning strikes every year than there are unarmed black people killed by the police. Now, if you're armed and you're killed by the police, that's it's one of the very important roles that the police play in the United States, America. But these people are, and I just got to say, I have no use for you. And while I would, on the one hand, like to see the American team win and do well and come home with the trophy, on the other hand, in order to have me interested in rooting for you and cheering for you, you have to not go out of your way to offend me in myriad ways. Is that too much to ask? And that the answer to that question is yes, it is too much to ask. For the Democrat Party, that's too much to ask. So the Democrat Party raised these anti-American, un-American young people, right? And I watched them the other day. I watched them, in speedy motion, and I watched them beat Vietnam. And I was thinking, we got to beat Vietnam, and it was 3-0, and that was good. And our team looked good, but fire these maladjusted, malevolent, malignant leftists who disparage their country on an international stage while in a foreign country. It's New Zealand, it's not North Korea, but nevertheless, they are doing the work of North Korea because they're demonstrating their anti-Americanism. I watch my best girl likes to listen to Megyn Kelly sometimes, and Megyn Kelly, former Fox News woman, went on a rant about the soccer players yesterday, called them disgusting, their behavior disgusting, and Nikki Haley went after the women's team as well. Former governor rips U.S. women's soccer for a national anthem decision. Now, it's not really something that I'm very inclined to engage in and watch in the first place, but I'd like to be able to root for our team. I just wish that the Democrat Party hadn't poisoned the well once again, as they do so frequently. So do they deserve to be boycotted, the U.S. women's national team? Or is it, it's only, more than half of them, 6 out of 11, protesting the national anthem while representing our country. Hatui, I say. I may go back if there's a championship game, but I gotta say, you kind of shut me down when it comes to being inclined to be a fan. So, I expect more of you. And until I get it, I'm not on your team. How about that?
I've sweated through my suit, flop sweat through the whole rest of the show.
Now, Megan Rapinoe is a hero to the media, and she played well 4 years ago. She was much younger then. People magazine June 29th, 2019. After the last World Cup, Megan Rapinoe accepts AOC invite to visit House of Representatives. But she, leading the team, refused to visit the White House because of Trump. "I'm not going to the beeping White House," she said. F-word. Rapinoe previously said about a possible visit with President Trump at the Victory Parade in New York. She was also cursing up a storm and yelling and screaming about, be better people, be nicer, while she was condemning people and cursing up a storm in public.
We took so much on our shoulders
Yeah, sure you did.
to be here today, to celebrate with you today.
She took so much on.
And we did it with a smile.
The burden. No, you
So
didn't.
do the same for us. Please,
Now,
I
she's-
ask you.
No,
New
do the
York
same
City,
thing.
you're the motherfuckers!
Get your mamma jammas out there. Yeah, Megan Rapinoe accepts Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez invite to the White House, but refused and condemned and cursed about President Trump. And she's still on the team, even though she's not playing him. And she said, well, she'd visit with Pelosi or with AOC, and so she's a radical and a nutcase and a vulgarian and a pig of sorts. I got to, and she's still on the team even though she's not playing because she's a figurehead or something. And then 6 of the 11 players protest, in effect, the national anthem. And okay, done with U.S. women's national soccer team in New Zealand playing in the World Cup. Sorry about that, and I'm sorry for the women that are normal. Remember normal, for Pete's sake. This is your Democrat Party. And of course, in the media, Trump was the bad guy of the story because our media is so filthy, rotten, corrupt. Speaking of which, we've got updates on the Biden organized crime family, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And I've got interviews for you that I want to share with you that I couldn't get to yesterday, and at least one case. And an update on the U.S. attorney in Delaware. Oh, we hadn't been able to corroborate anything in the FBI's secret document from 7 years ago. Turns out that's a lie, too, and we learned that yesterday. That's coming up. We'll update you on that and other crazy Democrat news.